Hi, this is Ashley from My Amelia Photoshop Actions. Today we're going to be going through a more in-depth use of Model Makeover. I did a tutorial video with a picture of my daughter, and there's a lot of features in Model Makeover that we can't use because they're makeup effects, so I'm going to be showing you how those work today on an adult model. I've already run Instant Drama from the Oh the Drama set, which is available for Photoshop Creative Suites, but not for Elements. It's in the works for Elements, but you can do most of what Instant Drama does with the basics action. It's just a lot more steps. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is go through and clean up blemishes, which she doesn't have a whole lot, but you know, everybody needs a little bit. So I typically use my clone stamp for everything. You can also use your spot healing brush, which is up here, but I prefer clone stamp. It's just a matter of preference. But I'm going to go through here. Now, in a typical portrait, you won't remove beauty marks, freckles, things like that. For a headshot, for like a modeling type thing, or sometimes at client request, you're going to need to remove everything. This is a headshot, but there's a few beauty marks and freckles that I'm going to leave just because I think they enhance rather than take away. But most of them I'm going to get rid of. Also fine lines, laugh lines, things like that. I tend to remove those from headshots. You always want to take your sample area for your clone stamp from right near the area you're covering. And if there's any lines from, say, shadows or features, you want to follow those lines. Otherwise, it's going to look a little strange. One thing... Oh, there's a little stray hair up here. And there is no substituting attention to detail because that one little stray hair could ruin the picture for the person who's paying you. So, one thing I've noticed that actually really helps, and it's not something that most people think to do, is to decrease the shadows around the nose. It makes the nose appear thinner. Shadows kind of make the nose look wider than it really is, so removing some of those shadows makes it look like its actual size. Now you don't want to take them all off because obviously just naturally there's shadows on this side of the face. So now I use clone stamp for under eye circles, but I'm not going to do it right now because there's another method that you can do using Model Makeover, so I'm going to show you that one first and then remove it and use the clone stamp. But okay. So the first thing I usually do is sharpen features, which is a tool that's in basics as well. I think it's something that needs to be done on every photo of someone's face. It's a selective sharpening tool, so I just run it over the eyes, nose, and mouth. I usually keep my brush at about 30% opacity. You don't want to go too sharp. And just over those features. And then we will do eyes. Her eyes are a beautiful brown color. We don't need to go too extreme on this, but it's a color, it's kind of a pop for the irises, and it just goes on the irises. Sorry. Elements, you just double click. Okay, 30%. Run that over. And that's a little too much. It starts to make them look a little bit red, so we're going to drop this down where it's just a tiny little bit of a pop. Okay, perfect smile is a teeth whitening action. Obviously there's no teeth here, so we're not going to use it on this one, but the way you use it is to brush it just on the teeth. You don't want to go on the gums or lips or anything because it'll bleach out those areas. Whiter whites is similar, but it's for the whites of the eyes. and you just, about 30%, most of my actions are designed to be run at 30% brush opacity. And it'll tell you in the little pop-up dialog box if it's different. But you just run this over the whites of the eyes. Now, a lot of people have naturally very whites of the eyes, but sometimes if you run color actions or warming actions or anything like that, you're going to change the color of the whites. So you want to fix that with this tool. And there's the difference. It's not too much. They were already pretty white. Okay. Now, tone down the red. There's not really much need for it here because I like the shadows, which are the red areas, but we're going to run it just to show you how it works. Okay, and it's a paint on. You just find areas that have just a little bit too much red. You can actually bring your brush a little bit higher on this one and run it over those areas. Like I said, I like the red in this, so I'm not going to leave it, but this will show you. Just takes the red out. Okay, and the same thing with Mellow the Yellow. Again, we don't need to take any off of here, but it doesn't hurt to go over it. And what Mellow the Yellow does is it turns yellow more toward the blue side, which, if something is extremely yellow, is helpful, but if it's not, then obviously you don't want to use it. So took out all the yellow, but we don't want that on this one. Okay, so powder is the method I was talking about to lighten up under eye circles. Like I said, I usually use Clone Stamp, but powder works well as well. And it also works, there's a few areas in here, because this was under pretty hot studio lights, there's a few areas that are a tiny bit shiny, so we'll run the powder over those areas as well to tone down that shine, blend them in a little bit more. And we'll take that from the cheek. Now you're going to want to have, well, it's going to take a minute to run, but you're going to want to have a really low brush opacity, around 15%, because you don't want it to be too obvious. Basically what it's doing is painting the skin tone onto other areas of the skin. And it blends it, evens out uneven skin tone, just like powder. So we'll drop this down to 15. And we will run over those hot spots a little bit. And a little bit on the end of our nose there. Okay, and now I'm going to put this up to 20. And I'm going to zoom in. Okay, and we're just going to run it over our under eye circles, which are not, she doesn't really have much in the way of circles, but okay, and I'll show you the difference there. And the reason I like Clone Stamp is because I like to get rid of the circles altogether. Powder just lightens them. Powder's a good one to use for portraits, family photos, things like that, where you're not trying to make the person look like a model. But when it comes to headshots, I just prefer to get rid of the circles altogether because you want as perfect a finish as you can possibly get. So I'm going to take a couple steps back to take this off of the eyes and just leave it on the skin. Okay. Now I'm going to run my Clone Stamp over here. And if you use Clone Stamp to do the under eye circles, you just want to go right next to the area you're covering up, or right under, depending on where you are. And just make sure it's nice and clean. Okay. Okay. Like a baby's bottom, that's a skin smoothing action. I usually run it with a brush opacity of 50% on typical photos. I bump it up to about 60 on headshots, boudoir, things like that, where the skin needs to look flawless. But kids, family photos, 50% is just enough because it's just a very subtle smoothing effect. You don't want people to look plastic. And the great thing about this smoothing action is it has this retain detail feature. That way you don't get that plastic effect. We'll go to 60 for her. And you're just going to brush it on the skin. You don't want to go over the features because, you know, we took the time to sharpen those. We don't want to smooth them back out. And you run it over all the skin. Okay. Okay, I will show you the makeup effects after I finish going through the things that I do on pretty much every photo. Paint on highlights. This is, if you think of this like a highlighting makeup, you highlight the brow bones. I use it on the bottom lip to increase the shine. I'll brush it through the hair to make those highlights pop. I explained this in my other tutorial, but if you don't watch that one, then... Anyway, this one can be at about 15%. Just over the brow bone there, bottom lip. And we'll go through the hair. Occasionally, I will put it on the cheekbones just a tiny bit, but in a situation where the cheekbones are already pretty bright, like this, you don't need it. It'll actually make it look too shiny. So we'll close that. I use Healthy Glow on every photo, but we'll do that last because I like to run it over the top of everything. Okay, so cherry lip stain is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to go very, very low. And she's already wearing makeup, but this is just going to show you what each of these do. So, we'll run that over. And just gives a slight cherry color to the lips. It's great for very subtle color if you don't want to make it look like you're putting lipstick on them, but you want to give them a little more color to their lips, then this is a good one. Okay, cherry blush, same thing. And this is going to be easy because you can already see where the blush goes, but you just run it over the cheekbone. And it gives it a rosy cheeks. But she already has blush, so. Okay, here's a fun one for those super pale people. We've got bronzer. And this is a less is more action. So I would start very low. Because see, it was only 8% and it's very dramatic effect. So take that off. Okay. Lip gloss palette and eyeshadow palette, those are really fun, but let's do Lash Blast first. This just darkens your eyelashes, which if you've got these super long lashes, mascara, all that, you probably don't need it, but I'll show you anyway. So you're going to make it pretty small and just run it over the lashes. Don't know how obvious it's going to be when there's makeup on her already, but we shall see. You can't really tell, but it's a slight darkening. So with people who aren't wearing any eye makeup, that their lashes just aren't popping out enough, just run that right over the lash line. You don't want to go too crazy. You don't want to go up into the eyelid or too far below, because it will give them a raccoony look if you go too far. So just on the lash line. Okay, so let's do the fun ones. Lip gloss palette. Now I call this a palette because it's got several different colors. You paint on once and then you can go through all the colors and see what you want. So, go to 12. Alright, we will start with this one. Make sure you select your layer mask and then turn on a color so you can see where you're painting. And just roll over the lips. Okay, so there's nude. Here's pink shimmer, which is what she's basically already got on her lips, but you can kind of see the difference. Berry, it's just a little darker than what she's wearing. And peach. It's very subtle. You can turn it up. It's at 80, so you have a little room to turn it up. That makes it a little more obvious. So there's the lip gloss palette. And the eyeshadow palette works the same way. She's wearing eyeshadow, but it's white, so I'm sure if we use the palette, it'll show up. We'll probably take on a little bit of the color. So say you've got somebody wearing very eyeshadow that's not either showing up very well or isn't super flattering, and you just want to change the tone a little bit. You can come in here. We'll start at the bottom. Make sure we're on our layer mask. Just come in close. Just paint it over the areas where there's eyeshadow. And there's several different colors on this one. Okay, so that was Seafoam. Here's Turquoise, Fuchsia, Bronze, Yellow, ooh, I like that, Orange, Purple, that's pretty too, Green, Blue, Brown, Black, which she's already got some black on, but, and white. Okay, so that's the eyeshadow palette. Lots of fun. Okay, now the last thing we'll do is a Healthy Glow. This one's great for anybody, but I mostly use it on women, children, men, not a whole lot. It's a great one for brides, maternity photos, that kind of thing. So I'll have it about 20% and just roll over the hair and all the skin. And it just adds a nice little glow. And you can drop it down if you want to. It's very a little goes a long way type of thing, like a lot of these. I actually do want that on there. Okay, well there you have it. There's a rundown of all the actions in Model Makeover. I hope you liked the video, and I'll see you next time.